This is a drawing that I made to illustrate a piece of philosophy that I really love. It's St. Anselm's argument for the existence of God. It's often misunderstood and sometimes derided, but it has a hidden beauty. The argument itself is often used to illustrate propositional logic, but I think it's actually better understood as a kind of thought experiment. So if we take a complete blank slate of an idea and give it the shape of a person, an individual, and to that individual we can add any attributes we like. Now imagine that we were to go through the full gamut of all of the characteristics a person might have and add in all of those ones that are better to have than not to have. So we look at a quality like power. It's probably better to have this than not to have it, so we add this attribute to our hypothetical individual. Mercy. It would be better to have this than not to have it, so we add that in as well. As we go through these characteristics, if ever there's a quality which is undesirable or better not to have, we simply throw that away. So something like greed or selfishness, we just get rid of that entirely. And each time we add one of these characteristics to our idea, we must also imagine it to its greatest extent. So it's not just beauty that we're adding absolute beauty. So if we follow this as a kind of framework, in theory at least, we can arrive at the maximally good idea, the best thing that a human being could possibly imagine, and that we can give a name, and for now at least, we can call it God. Now, as we were sifting through all of those possible properties, we may have come across something labelled existence. Would it be better to exist than not to exist? Well, for the maximally good thing, surely it's better to exist than not to exist. So we must have added that in with the pile amongst beauty and mercy and power. Now, as soon as we say that this thing has existence as part of its being, it means that it must also exist in reality and not just as an idea. If we were to take existence away from it, it would cease to be the greatest idea possible, because we could imagine something even greater, i.e., something that actually exists. Now, if you don't find this argument particularly convincing, don't worry, you're not alone. Philosophers have been critiquing it for many centuries. But it took around 700 years for a particularly fatal argument against it to come about. It was delivered by Immanuel Kant, who formulated that to state that something exists is an entirely different kind of statement to saying that something is beautiful or merciful or powerful. Existence isn't a predicate. It's not an attribute that you can add to a thing. It isn't something that can certainly be applied necessarily to an object or an idea. Now, even if the ontological argument is so flawed in proving God's existence, I still believe it has a great deal of power. Anselm is aware that human capacity for contemplating God is limited, but he inspires himself and his readers to undergo this project in order to better understand God. It has the ultimate purpose of being able to logically prove God's existence, but on the way there, he has this idea of elevating your own thoughts to the highest possible point that they can reach, and for him, that would be something akin to God. He writes his philosophy in the form of a prayer, speaking to God directly, saying, "You are something greater than that which can be thought." He's striving to understand something that he knows will always be just beyond his reach. Despite that, he's driven to the very highest peak his intellect is capable of, at a time when the tools of logic were so limited, and I think that captures something about the true nature of philosophy as a kind of quest. So in my illustration you see Saint Anselm himself in the middle. He is layered up on top of pages of the Proslogion, that work where he lays out his philosophy and his argument for the existence of God. Here we see in the Latin Beatus Verax Justus. These are some of the qualities he's attributing to God. Beatus, happy, Verax, truthful, Justus, just. Around the edge at the top there you can see the very limit of Anselm's thoughts, and it says in the Latin, Es quidam maius quam cogitari possit, you are something greater than that which can be thought. With Anselm's face showing the slightest reflection of that inaccessible light from above that he is striving for.